Welcome to the Utah Puck Report. I'm your host, Jay Stevens. It's good to be here. We've got a couple podcasts coming out actually today and tomorrow and the next day with so much hockey going on. We want to get caught up with what's going on with the Utah Mammoth. But first off, we got to pay tribute and get in touch with the final hunt. So who better to talk to us about the Utah Grizzlies and what's going on this year than Tyson Whiting, my good friend Tyson. Thank you so much for being on the show.
That's great to be here, Jay. And, there was a little bit of a chill in the air, and I think that just means that hockey season's here.
This is my favorite time of year. I love just being in a quarter zip. I still wear shorts and flip flops, but when it gets cold, I throw that quarter zip on, and I know hockey is coming, and it just I just get excited.
Yeah, it's an exciting time of year. Just about everything's in action. Every level of hockey, football, baseball, basketball, you name it, it's here in October.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Tell me, so I've noticed a little bit of shift in like when it got announced. Actually, when I broke the story that the Grizzlies were being sold, and I'll never reveal my source, although it's nobody would see it coming because it really doesn't have anything to do with the Grizzlies. But when I broke that story, a lot of people were mad. Maybe they were heartbroken. But then as time progressed, because I'll tell you what, I was one of the ones that's heartbroken. The Grizzlies mean a lot to me. Like we've talked before, it wasn't the first date that I took my wife on, but it was definitely one of the first dates. And then we went to like every game we possibly could. And then not to mention 25 years as the E-Bug. But now it seems like people are like, okay, it's gonna be the last season. In the Mavericks Center also, which is such a great building for hockey. And it seems like everybody's just like, let's do this right. Let's go out as big fans. Let's pack that building. Let's show our support. Let's show our love. Are you feeling that from the fans as well, from like even the staff?
I'm feeling quite a bit of it. A little bit of we got about 6 to 8 months left, and let's try to make the most of it. Make as many memories as possible because there has been so many great memories that have been associated with Grizzlies hockey. I mean, there's so many people that their first dates were Grizzlies games, and some of those, dates turned into something more. In a few cases, turned into marriage, and that's where they had their first date was at a Grizzlies game, and so many great memories. And really, if you think about for about 3 decades, when it came to pro hockey in the state of Utah, the Grizzlies were what we had. About 10 years in the IHL and AHL, and then 20 years in the ECHL, and so for a lot of people, the Grizzlies were what was keeping the spirit of pro hockey alive in this state. And so, in 2024, when the NHL showed up, it wasn't necessarily a new concept. Everybody had already known what hockey was, and there wasn't as much of an educational process as people probably thought there was because the Grizzlies had made such an impression and had been such a presence for about 3 decades here in the Salt Lake Valley.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people grew up, they went to these games with their father. They grew up, or their mother or their father, their parents, whatever. They grew up and then started taking their kids to Grizzlies games. So you're right. You've got multi generations that are raised on Grizzlies hockey. And speaking of marriage, I even remember times when they did a promotion where they did wedding ceremonies on the ice, and a lot of those were people that met at Grizzlies games. So we're looking forward to the final hunt. I plan on going to as many games as I can. Hopefully, I get the E-Bug call again this year. But let's talk about what's going on with the roster. We've got a new coach, and I think they did a phenomenal job. I got to tell you, I thought Ryan Kanasowicz was big shoes to fill, and he was, right? I mean, he was a phenomenal coach, great systems guy, great at developing talent, and all the kids that came here and played here really liked him. So I'm like, I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think they did it. Like the coach they brought in, John Buchanan, phenomenal guy, great track record. And you look at what he brings to the system. This would have been like if Kanasowicz was going to move on anyway. This looks like a great fit. I would have really liked to have seen him here for a few years. What are you seeing from him? What gets you excited about this new coach that they have?
Seeing quite a bit of structure, a lot of working on defensive drills, working on, being assignment sound. And I think that the one thing they're probably focused on this season is being a little bit more aggressive defensively and being a little bit more sound defensively. Unfortunately, last year, the Grizzlies did have some defensive issues. And so it's almost an entirely different defensive unit that the Grizzlies have. And I'm certainly curious early in the season to see how it's going to play out. But they got a couple good goaltenders. Dryden McKay and Dylan Wells are currently on the Grizzlies roster, and that's a pretty good 1-2 punch. Among some of the defensemen I've really been impressed with, the Aiden Hansen Bukata, who played at Ohio State University, and he actually led the Buckeyes in assists last year. Looks like he's going to be pretty strong. Christian Felton had an NHL deal with the Vancouver Canucks last season, so it looks like he's going to be a pretty good addition to the defensive unit. Avery Winslow's got some pro experience with Orlando. Noah Gansky was a big impact in Fort Wayne the last couple of years. In fact, he was on the defensive pairing with Kyle Mayhew, and over the last 2 years, Gansky was a plus performer for Fort Wayne, and he's a big guy, 6'7", 207. So fans are really going to enjoy
Wow.
seeing him.
Wow.
Luke Salem comes back. He played with Indy and Kalamazoo last year, and he's a solid defenseman. Kobe N's a first-year pro, had a good college career. So I think they're really looking forward to having a pretty good defensive unit. And I think what they're hoping is that the defensive unit maybe can compare to that 2022 defensive unit, the team that went to the Western Conference Finals.
Oh, nice. That would be amazing. So, I did talk to the coach about, I know he was planning on building a big roster. And I said, yeah, the problem is every time we have a great roster, our AHL affiliate sees that great roster and starts robbing our guys. We had guys last year that were supposed to play for the Grizzlies all season and maybe got 10 games with the Grizz. So with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about Dryden McKay. And you told me he's named after Ken Dryden.
Yep, he's named after Ken Dryden. So I guess he was born to be a goaltender.
Wow.
Unfortunately, Ken Dryden passed away recently. But the interesting thing about him is statistically, he's one of maybe the best college goaltenders in NCAA history. I mean, he won the Hobie Baker Award back in 2022, and he holds a shutout record, wins record. I mean, you name it, he pretty much did it at the college level. He's had some success as a pro with Newfoundland and Greenville. He's even had some AHL time, and the only thing, unfortunately, that probably keeps him at the level is that he is about 6 feet, maybe a little under 6 feet. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what he'll do this year. And obviously, Dylan Wells has got about 9 years of experience as well. And so I think the goaltending situation is pretty good this season.
Yeah, those two goaltenders look phenomenal. It blows my mind when I look at Dryden McKay's numbers that he's still in the Coast. And you're right; it's the same thing that was happening with Trent Miner. When you look at a guy, a phenomenal goaltender, just absolutely unreal, and it takes him. He's too short, too short. That's what you always hear about, from coaching staffs or scouts. But it takes a lot. And look at what I think is going to become the best goalie in the NHL right now is Wolf first off, out of California, which is crazy that the starting goalie for the Calgary Flames is a little guy out of California, and people kind of forget that he's not 6'4", that he had to beat all those odds. If you give these little guys the chance, and they're not little, they're 6 feet tall, yeah. They're 5'11". That's not little.
Hey, to me, that's pretty. To me, that's good size. I would take 5'11", maybe 6 feet. Yeah, I look at like John Van Beesbrook, Mike Richter. Right. Mike Vernon wasn't all that big a goaltender. I mean, those guys were all successful, and it's not like the net got any bigger over the last 20 years.
Yeah, I think scouts just got it in their head that they have to have a 6'4" goaltender. I've talked about this a few times with coaches and GMs, and it's just in their head that I'm going to get this 6'4", 6'7", whatever, put him in the pipes, and hopefully we can make him faster. But honestly, I'd like to see a guy like Trent Miner succeed. I saw he was backing up last night for the Avalanche against the Utah Mammoth. I saw him on the bench, and I just think I think these guys, including Dryden, they have the NHL capability that I think they just need the chance.
Yeah, that's all it really takes for some of these guys, just getting that opportunity.
Yeah. So what else do you think we're going to be able to expect this year? Talk about tonight. Are there guys on the bubble tonight that you think this preseason game against the Idaho Steelheads, is this a chance for some guys to stay on the team that if they don't play well tonight, they're not going to be there tomorrow?
I think there may be a couple of those guys. I think for the most part, they have a pretty good idea of what their roster is going to look like. And so at least tonight, they're going to roll with a lot of regulars over in Boise, a lot of players that have previous experience in this league, or they're rookies that either have AHL contracts or players that, are certainly going to be on the team. And so I think they're, at least tonight, they're going to look to find a way to just play good hockey with guys that they know are going to be on the roster. And there really aren't that many bubble guys, interestingly enough. It seemed like they got the perfect mix of players from the American Hockey League. They got 4 guys from the Colorado Eagles and another 2 from the Tucson Roadrunners. And I think they're just hoping that with the group that they're going to have for the regular season, that they develop a little bit of chemistry this weekend.
That's one of the things too. Like this was going to be a year where the Utah Mammoth started putting some players onto the Grizzlies roster, and we see that. Is Dylan Wells under contract with Utah?
I think he's under a contract with somebody. It might be either be Utah or Tucson,
Okay, all right.
but he is in the organization.
Yeah, so he's part of their organization. You said we got a couple other players that are part of the organization. I would have liked to have
I
seen.
think Jack Ricketts. I think
Okay,
Ford had a pretty good year with Quinnipiac last year. I think he's on an AHL contract with Tucson.
very cool, very cool. So how do you think? Like the talk was big. Coach Mechanic's like, hey man, we're going for the championship. This is the goal. We're gonna hit that championship for sure. And you're seeing it. You've seen it every year. What are you seeing as far as how this roster looks? Do you think we have a legitimate shot at making the roster or making the championship?
I think so. Certainly, I mean it's a tough division, so it'll be a challenge to get to the postseason. But I really like the depth of the forwards. They've got 3 or 4 really strong forward lines. They got Tyler Gratton, who led the Reading Royals in goals last season. Reed Webster led the Grizzlies in points over the last 2 months, and he's back. He was in training camp with Colorado, the Eagles over in AHL camp. Neil Shea over the first 4 months of last season proved to be an outstanding goal scorer. Luke Manning's back. Mick Messner, last year's captain, returns. They're very excited about a guy named Ty Voigt, who had an NHL contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs previously. Not a very big guy, but he's certainly very speedy. He had a good year with Cincinnati last year, and they think they have some high hopes for him. And we mentioned Jack Ricketts, who's got the AHL contract with Tucson. He had 20 goals in college last year, and I imagine once he gets his feet wet in pro hockey, maybe adjust to the speed of the game. I imagine about a month from now, he's going to be a pretty good scorer as well. So there's a lot of hope and optimism. Riley Connors and Evan Friesen were 2 guys that came from the college ranks, or Friesen from juniors and Connors from Yale University.
Oh wow.
Those guys made a strong impression last year, and there's some high hopes for them this season. So it does look like there's 3 or 4 really good forward lines to start the season.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. It sounds like they've got exactly what they wanted to put in place, and it all starts tonight. And are you playing? Is it Idaho Falls tonight? This is my co-host, by the way. This is Loki, who's my little kitty cat. But
That's great to see the cat there.
I don't have a choice. When he decides to go somewhere, he goes. So do we have? It's Idaho Falls tonight. Is that right?
I think it's Boise tonight, Idaho Falls tomorrow.
Oh, nice. Man, that's. I got to tell you that Boise rink is one of my favorite rinks ever playing. Having the hotel right there, it's phenomenal. It's just such a cool building. But
And Mammoth were there a couple weeks ago for a preseason game.
yeah, so cool. And I got to see a lot of like people from Boise that I knew from my e-bugging for the Steelheads days were posting stories about how cool it was to see like Dylan Gunther and those guys just in the hallway. But and then I got to see the new building up in Park City up at Black Rock. And I understand that's built like it's a mirror to what is in Idaho Falls. And
Yeah,
what a phenomenal build. It's so great. Like just an outstanding building. So I'm excited to see both these games. And for people that are wanting to watch the game or listen to you call a game tonight, what's the best way for them to tune in?
I believe the games will be on Flow Sports this weekend, both Friday and Saturday. I will be doing an audio broadcast on YouTube for the preseason as well as every regular season game. So that's kind of
Okay.
a unique setup. It just everybody knows what YouTube's known for, but yeah, oddly enough, that's just where the radio broadcasts are. Just a little bit of a picture mixed in, and you saw the home opener last year. It's kind of intimidating having that camera pointed at me, because you can't point it to, obviously Flow Sports has the exclusive video rights, but it is kind of a fun, unique broadcast, and we'll be doing that this weekend and all season long.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll be looking for you. You know, I'll be on YouTube and I'll be throwing some comments here and there and trying to participate. Really excited about the Utah Grizz. I'm sad that it's the last season, but man, I'm gonna show my support, and my love, and my appreciation for what the Grizzlies have meant to me and to Utah as much as I can. And like I've said before, you blow my mind. I think you're just an amazing play-by-play guy. And I sat there with you and I've watched how you have to keep track of YouTube, keep track of the game. You like I've talked with Adrian Denny a million times about it. You guys really earn your keep, man. You do so much. Typically, it's like a 5-man process, but it's always just you out there, and you kill it, man.
Well, thank you. I know for the mammoth, that's more than a 5-person process there, but and the weird thing is, I'm not a real good multitasker, but somehow you got to remember you hit this button and do all those things, and then somehow remember the names of 10 players flying down the ice at the same time.
Yeah, well, you've never seemed to have a problem with it, and the fans. I mean, the fans love you, man. So it's awesome. You do a great job.
Well, hopefully, hopefully we'll have 8 more months. I mean, I know we got 6 months of the regular season. Hopefully, we'll have a few more months and try to drag this long as we can. But it's obviously some tough circumstances over the last few months. But we're just trying to have some fun with it and hopefully make some good memories.
Absolutely, that's what it's all about, making memories. The final hunt starts tonight. Utah Grizzlies. You can catch Tyson Whiting on YouTube and on Flow Hockey. And Tyson, thanks so much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jay.
And that is the Utah Puck.